In his explosive, soon-to-be-released book, former FBI Director James Comey calls the president untethered to the truth, unethical, ego-driven, and even compared him to famed mob hitman Sammy the Bull. According to reports of excerpts, not confirmed by NBC News, the book, A Higher Loyalty, gives new details about interactions Comey had with the president, including that now infamous dinner, where Comey says Mr. Trump demanded his loyalty. Comey writing, the president said, quote, "I need loyalty. I expect loyalty." Comey was pressed on Capitol Hill about the dinner.
Because I was playing in my mind, because I was going to remember every word he said. I was playing in my mind, what should my response be? And that's why I very carefully chose the words. And look, I've seen the tweet about tapes. Lordy, I hope they're tapes.
Comey also reportedly writes that he regrets some of the wording he used in the press conference in which he announced his decision not to prosecute Hillary Clinton for her use of a private email server. The president fired Comey last May, which led to the appointment of the special counsel Robert Mueller. This week, Mr. Trump musing about firing Mueller, infuriated by the FBI raid of his personal lawyer, looking for documents about payouts between a porn star and playmate.
We'll see what happens.
Today, turning down the heat, tweeting, "I have agreed with the historically cooperative, disciplined approach that we have engaged in with Robert Mueller," even as his allies work to undermine the entire investigation, focusing their fire at Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, who's overseeing Mueller. Rosenstein was at the White House today, meeting with the president over routine business, according to an official, hours after lawyer Joe DeGeneva, who almost joined the president's legal team, said this.
Rod Rosenstein is so incompetent, compromised, and conflicted that he can no longer serve as the Deputy Attorney General.
Former Chief Strategist Steve Bannon telling the Washington Post the president should fire Rosenstein, but establishment Republicans warning.
Bannon ought to stay out of this, and certainly Rosenstein has a reputation of honor and integrity.
As for Comey and his regrets about some of the language he used during the investigation into Hillary Clinton, Comey says ultimately he believes he did the right thing.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.